doing this. This pain in his palms is making it awfully hard to train. He looked at his red palm. The teacher replied that he would know when it was time to fight. Now it was time for him to rest. The more sleep he got, the less things would hurt tomorrow. He left the room, leaving the boy alone. The boy was drenched in sweat and breathing heavily, shaking. He lay on the couch covered with a blanket. He thought about how much pain he was in. He can't even move a finger. What is he even doing right now? He was ready for this, so why is he regretting it more and more? He's in so much pain, so how is he supposed to sleep? This hellish training lasted for 4 days. He wanted to see if the training had any effect. That's why he's here, standing in the middle of the street. Where would he go to meet some thugs? He doesn't have a lot of time to search every nook and cranny. He walked up to a place with a sign that said Royal Billiards and decided that he would try here. Hanel didn't have much time to search every nook and cranny. He stopped at the entrance with the sign Royal Billiards and decided that he would try here. The guy walked up the stairs and thought that modern billiard clubs have changed a lot. There are no age requirements for visitors now, so people often come here as a family to have fun. But this place seemed to be different because it was run by gangsters. The guy saw that there were 8 pool tables in the room, and someone was playing on each one. Many were smoking right there. Some were sitting against the walls watching. He looked at his shaking hand and worriedly thought that if he couldn't get that shaking down, the case wouldn't move forward. If he couldn't handle anyone here, then Gangdae Chun would be a dream, not to mention Uhan Cheol. First, he would have to find the biggest burly guy. He clenched his hand into a fist and looked around the room. He noticed one man and thought that guy seems like a heavyweight, but he's shorter in height. He fixed his glasses and sadly realized that an opponent like Uhan Cheol would be hard to find here. Just then, a door slammed behind him. He turned around and saw a tall, burly man in a striped shirt. He declared that they were all corpses if they dared to continue the game while he was in the latrine. Hanel's eyes widened happily, and he thought this was just what he was looking for, even better. A skinny, brown-haired man in a white shirt called the man a senior and told him that no idiot would dare ruin the game for the 3rd strongest player in this region, to which the man told him to shut up already and asked if there wasn't supposed to be a towel or dryer of some sort around here. Shaitan yelled for a towel to be brought in for the older man. A frail kid in a school uniform and rectangular glasses held out a white towel in 2 hands, but as he came closer, he tripped and fell face down right in front of the man. The brown-haired man yelled at him that he couldn't even fetch a towel properly. The kid got up, held out the towel, and apologized for the delay. The man looked at him silently at first, but then angrily asked him if he thought he would wipe his hands with the towel he had rolled on the floor. The guy looked at him fearfully, and he took a red cue ball from the table and said that even though he was 3rd, they still didn't want to put him on the score sheet. The kid was in tears and started saying that he would bring a new one right away. He begged to be spared. The man asked him if he thought he could get away from him like that, and he swung his hand with the balloon at the boy. He screamed and covered his head with his hands. There was a loud shout. Someone called out for Taeshik. The man stopped, asked what, and his face grew even angrier. The kneeling guy turned around and saw Gang Hanel, who asked him, "Is this big guy a bad guy by any chance?" The man got angry, clenched his fists, and said only to look at them. "Today is just a bunch of idiots wanting to lose their lives." He grabbed Taeshik by his collar and asked, did he really decide to call a friend to help him? Does he really want to die? He swung the ball again, but stopped again because the guy yelled to Hanel that he was bad. That asshole really is a bad guy. He's that son of a bitch. The man got even more pissed off and said the guy was out of his mind, but then something hit his crowbar, and blood came out of it. It was Hanel's glasses, which fell to the floor and shattered, and the guy was still standing with his arm outstretched after the throw, smirking slyly and saying it was a strike. Here, the brown-haired man who was standing closest to the guy and had a cue in his hand wanted to hit him with it and asked who he was to go against the older man. Hanel watched the movement of the cue and wondered what it was. It's just like a slow-motion movie. He was absolutely sure he couldn't hit it. He intercepted the cue, pulled it toward him along with the guy, and then hit him over the head with his own head. The brown-haired man flew back against the wall. Hanel smirked and thought he was stronger and faster than before. Suddenly, the man started to attack with his fist. The guy managed to dodge but realized that the man had tremendous strength. One punch and he's dead. He has to keep his distance. He can't find his weaknesses. If this doesn't work, he's a dead man. Suddenly he found something and he's on his opponent. But then he remembered his training with the rubber band. Then he asked the teacher, would this training really help him defeat someone bigger than him? The man then raised his index finger up and said that any opponent, one way or another, will show a flaw in their defense. He, on the other hand, must not miss that opportunity. That is why he trains his fists for quick strikes. Simply put, this will be his finishing blow. Once he adapts to use his speed, his chances of winning will increase. Hanul realized why he needed that rubber band on his arm, and wondered if these boogeymen even had weaknesses. The teacher pointed to his knee. Hanul didn't understand, and the man explained to him that the more weight you weigh, the more strain there would be on your knees. Even incredibly trained muscles wouldn't be able to protect against damage if one received a direct hit. If he could successfully attack his knee, he would have a chance to use his reaching kick. Hanul tried to see a flaw in the defense. Meanwhile, the man told Tae-shik that he was in the way, and then put one of his feet on the back of the guy who was kneeling and covering his head with his hands. That's when Hanul realized he'd found what he was looking for. All his weight was now on one leg. He immediately made a slash at the man's supporting leg. Falling down, he brought his hands up. The guy took advantage of his chin being exposed. This was his chance for the decisive blow. The man noticed the guy pointing his fist at him, but thought, what's a punch from a high school kid worth? But the punch was truly powerful. Hanul felt as if his fists were harder than stone, like something that couldn't be any harder. He now understood the need for a solid fist. But then the man lowered his hand so that he could grab the boy and toss him aside. Until that moment, Hanul had no idea how terrifying the experience of people who had been through countless fights could be. He hit the table, blood spurting out of his mouth. He fell to the floor and coughed. The man said this is what happens when a high school kid goes up against an adult. He was about to step on the guy with his foot, and the guy realized there was more to it. But then a voice called out to Hyung-nim. The man stopped, turned around, and saw the red-haired man behind him, who said that he had once told him to feel free to ask if he needed anything. He asked him to forgive him, but could he please concede the guy to him? The man told Ao Han-cheol that he didn't know what he wanted him for, but the kid had pissed him off too much for him to let him go so easily. Han-cheol insisted that still, he'd like to deal with him personally. Besides, if word got out that he was beating up high school students, Hyung tisked and said he'd ruined his fun. As he left, he told the kid that he could consider himself lucky. He patted Han-cheol on the shoulder and said he was leaving him to it. The red-haired man thanked him. Once they were alone in the billiard room, Han-cheol asked Han-yul if it was so hard to be quiet before the tournament. He couldn't let someone else break his toy. Tae-shik and Han-yul stood on the roof of the training building. It was raining. Tae-shik asked what had happened to Hanul lately. Was he aware that he had changed a lot? But the guy with the broken glasses looked down and remained silent. Tae-shik also lowered his head and admitted that he really envies him. He really wants to fight back, to feel human, but right now it's like... Hanul finished his sentence by saying, like he's nothing more than a bug underfoot, right? The interlocutor was surprised, and Hanul explained that he was the same. No, he's still the same. The reason he wants to get stronger is because he can't stop feeling this helplessness. He's just looking for a way to forget this disgusting feeling. He doesn't even know why he decided to embark on this path. Not to mention that it has now become difficult for him to distinguish the imaginary from reality. Tae-shik shouted at him, asking what he would order him to do if he belittled himself like this. He'd actually called the bandit scum right to his face, all at his mercy. It's on his conscience now. He has to protect Tae-shik. This whole thing started with his weird, is he bad question, but in the end he did it because they are friends. Hanul was surprised, but then someone called his name loudly. It was his teacher who said that he was starting the last part of his special training. What is he doing now? Hanul asked. What was the special training? The man replied that starting today he has a new schedule. He will eat and sleep all the time. Hanul scratched the back of his head and asked again. All he has to do is eat and sleep. Just like the teacher said, the rest of the time he only ate and slept. After that, the day of the tournament came, which greeted him with sunny weather. After meeting with that bandit, there was no more training. It was strange to him that he wasn't scared at all. He was rather excited. He woke up on the couch in the teacher's office and stared at the ceiling. But then there was a shout from the street, wondering if he knew what time it was. Hanul jumped out of bed, quickly gathered himself and went outside. As he came downstairs, he apologized, making excuses that he was thinking about something. But then he saw Leon in front of him, next to him his grandfather, a dark-skinned man with a bald head wearing sunglasses, and a woman in a strict skirt and jacket, also wearing sunglasses. Behind him was a white automobile. The teacher came up to them and told Hanel that he must be a tough guy to keep his teacher waiting. The boy didn't understand what was going on, and Leon told the teacher that he was the one paying for everything here. So why did he eventually decide to go with Hanel and not him?